GHRT Rewinds are brought to you by Laughlin and Wolfington Team. Your home sold guaranteed realty. Find out what your home is worth online instantly at LaughlinWolfingtonRealty.com. Penobscot County Sheriff's Department sending out a news release yesterday, and it asked those viewing it to refresh themselves on the topic. And George, it was a poster of Graham Lacher, still missing. Tammy Lacher Scully. Tammy, I was ashamed this morning that I had even stumbled over the pronunciation of Lacher because we hadn't talked in such a time, and I think we probably should be talking more often. Welcome back to the George Hale Ric Tyler Show, Tammy.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Where are we in the continued search for your son, who's been missing since June of last year?
Well, this is now more than 15 months into his disappearance, and we feel more motivated than ever to find him now before it gets cold again. We certainly hope that he's managed to take care of himself up to now, but we're very concerned that he may be barely managing, and time is of the essence.
38 years old when he first walked out of Dorothea Dix Psychiatric Center in Bangor on June 6th of 2022. You've done a marvelous job of everything you know how to do. The last I knew, the reward money was up to around $5,000. It may be different now. And you've searched everywhere from Kerry to Fort Kent. Have you had any recent sightings that we can point to?
Yes, we continue to receive sightings every month. There are always some, I think we've had about a dozen this month so far. We follow up on all of those. Some of them are more credible than others, meaning that we've received a picture and it looks enough like Graham that we can't eliminate it as a sighting. But when we follow up on those, we're not able to find the same person again to nail it down, to resolve it, or to eliminate it. But we continue to follow up on all of those, and we're really grateful that people continue to send them because we really believe he's out there somewhere. We just need one confirmed sighting to make a huge difference in this.
You've sent out postcards to, I don't know how many. At least 1,000?
Well, we have 1,000 postcards, and in 10 days, an army of volunteers have helped us get those in the mail, and at this point, we're getting close to 700 sent out.
And the postcards, what do they look like? Who's receiving them? What calls to actions are included on the postcards, Tammy?
Well, our intent here was really to bring Graham back in the public mind again, because we feel after so much time has passed, people go on with their lives and kind of he fades to the background, and we wanted to do something to turn that around, and we thought, well, let's mail a hard copy of something to everybody. We want to be on the lookout, and so we thought, who are the people in Maine, most likely to, and outside of Maine, most likely to interact with Graham. And so we settled on, first we sent to all of the police departments, agencies, all law enforcement in Maine. And then we moved through our list. We sent to homeless shelters and soup kitchens, warming and cooling centers. We sent to, we're currently working on all the public libraries because that's often a place where people who are unsheltered end up going to get warm or just, be out of the elements. We're sending to hospital emergency rooms, ambulance services, and even bottle redemption centers, because a lot of unsheltered people might collect bottles for money, and that is something that Graham is familiar with. He usually redeemed our returnable bottles and built up some money that way. So it's a thing it's a process that's familiar to him. We think he might do that. So we've just sent them to everyone that we think might interact with Graham.
Well, we know that Graham suffers from a type of mental illness. He tends to avoid people. So we know him as someone who has long hair and a beard, wears glasses. Is there any possibility he's changed his appearance? I mean, would you think? I'm not sure how that would happen. His hair keeps growing. Would he somehow achieved a way of changing appearance?
Very possibly, and that's something that we've addressed by altering photographs of him in an editing program where we remove his beard, we shorten his hair, we have him with glasses or without glasses. And, you know, it's one of the things that's quite likely is that he's lost weight, and that might change his appearance. He may have lost his glasses. That would change his appearance. We do know in the course of this 15 months, we've done a lot of searching in many different communities and interacting with homeless services. And we do know that there are some kind-hearted barbers and stylists who will offer free haircuts to people who are unsheltered. And so it is possible that he has changed his appearance.
I've got to think that if there has been this is a very tough thing to say, Tammy, but give me a moment, but there's hope at the end of it. If we have not found the body of your son, that's got to fuel hope that he is alive. He is still smart enough to fend for himself. He is getting help somewhere, and he's just laying low because he wants not to be found.
Yep, that's exactly what we're thinking as well. There was a lot of search early on that was geared really toward finding remains, and that has not happened, thankfully. Part of Graham's illness is a hyper concern for his own safety and well-being, and so we are investing a lot in the thought that he's been careful and has managed to take care of himself enough to survive up to this point. And yes, he has to have received help somewhere, even if it was brief when the weather was worst, or, sporadic, meaning, he might reach out for a period of time and then not, and then have to reach out again. We just have no idea where. And so, we have really tried to focus on Maine, thinking that's most likely, but we've also expanded our efforts to neighboring states, particularly New Hampshire and Massachusetts. We did go to Boston. We did look at the homeless encampments there and talk to police in all the precincts of the city. And we've made contacts in New Hampshire, especially Portsmouth, because it's so close to Maine. Be very easy to walk across the border there and of the state and not really be known very well at all in that state, even though it's right across the river from Maine. So we agree with that, and it's what keeps us looking.
He is diagnosed, as we know, we've gone through this before, as a schizophrenic who is on the autism spectrum. He once lived in a group home, walked away from that. Then he was at Dorothea Dix. I guess using the term in quotes, ran away from that place after being taken outside for a walk. Is there any possibility that he could be in even though it's unlikely, a group situation somewhere?
Yes, and this is something that was inconceivable to me before we embarked on this search, but it is conceivable that he is in a hospital somewhere, and we just don't know. And if he's nonverbal, which is one of the aspects of autism for him, it's not that he can't speak, but he often doesn't speak, or he's had long periods where he's not verbal. So if he shows up in some sort of distress at a hospital, isn't speaking, they would admit him as a John Doe. And even though I'm his full legal guardian, I've found it very difficult to get that information from hospitals. They use the HIPAA laws to protect privacy and aren't willing really to give information. So that's another area where I'm trying to work and make it clear what my legal rights are so that I can get information. I don't want the identity of any other patient, but if there's somebody matching Graham's description who's admitted at a hospital as a John Doe, I would want them really to try to find out if that's my son Graham.
Wow, I wonder if there's any legal way around that.
Well, the law is pretty clear.
Yeah.
I'm his full legal guardian, and my authority actually supersedes his. So I definitely need to be involved in any kind of medical treatment that he receives. So they're, in a sense, violating my rights as his guardian by not letting me know. But also, he has a right to an advocate and a protector in the system, and he has relied on me in the past to do that for him, to make sure that he's not given a particular medication that he's researched and he's afraid of, or and another time I was able to talk, officers out of placing him in handcuffs, that sort of thing. So, it works both ways. I have a right to know where he is, and he has a right to my protection as his guardian.
You just said something, and a listener had sent, maybe, George, you saw the text message that came in. Let us give you two text messages and your reaction to both. Someone writes, could he be in jail somewhere?
Yeah, well, I think that's a possibility. It seems a little less likely. I do think law enforcement makes, has access to databases that he's in and would hopefully make an effort to determine his identity. Mm-hmm. But it is, again, possible if he's there as a John Doe that they just haven't been able to determine who he is. And if he's nonverbal, he's not giving his name. So, yeah, that's also a possibility.
Well, Tammy, you looked south. Is there even a conceivable possibility that he went north and would have crossed the border into Canada?
Well, that was another thing early on. We thought that was very unlikely, that the border is pretty well monitored and that sort of thing. But during the course of this search, I've spoken to a law enforcement officer who is active in that area, and he said that it's actually not that uncommon for people to wander through the woods into Canada. And if Graham is trying to stay out of sight, he might be wandering the wood line. That's something that we've thought about this entire time. And he might even accidentally have found him, have wound up in Canada. It's hard for a United States citizen to pursue much along those lines. We're not allowed to speak directly to Canadian Mounties, for instance, but we have found that we can contact social service agencies, agencies in Canada that work with the homeless. And we have done a bit of that outreach, and my husband has crossed into Canada just over the border in New Brunswick, contacting police once he's there. So we've done what we could along those lines, and we've asked our detective at the Bangor Police Department to follow up on any possible sightings we have received from Canada, and we have had a couple of those as well. So,
Tammy, in our final moment, please direct us where we can go online, where listeners can go, get a fresh image of Graham, what he looked like, what he might look like, and how we can contact you should there be any possible sighting.
Thank you. The absolute best thing is to go to our Facebook page, Missing Graham Lacher. The banner of the page shows that the photograph that we changed, we altered to show short hair, long hair, beard, no beard, glasses, no glasses, so people could get an idea of how he might look different now. And anyone who thinks they see him should contact me via messenger on that page.
Tammy Lacher Scully, I promise to be in more contact with you in the months ahead. That's my promise to you as we have you back on our program. Okay, Tammy?
Thank you very much.
GHRT Rewinds are brought to you by Laughlin and Wolfington Team. Your home sold guaranteed realty. Find out what your home is worth online instantly at laughlinwolfingtonrealty.com.